Hello everyone, welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host Paula Taylor and this is episode 131. So tonight we're going to talk about Reiki and dimensional frequency expansion. Last week I talked about the power of energy work, and we talk about energy work on the show all the time. I am an energy worker. I've decided to start saying I'm an expert in energy work. I've been doing it for 20 years. And so I wanted to, last week we kind of talked really generally, and we've talked a lot on the show, what is energy work? We've talked about dimensional frequency expansion, or DFE, which is something that I've channeled. We're going to talk more about that tonight. But I wanted to kind of narrow down a little bit because energy work is a very broad topic. It's very general. So we're going to talk about two specific types of energy work tonight that I practice and that I am now teaching. And then I've got a really exciting announcement. So if you stick around, that'll happen sometime later on in the show. Let's talk first about Reiki. So when I did my first Reiki attunement, that was almost exactly 20 years ago. I just found my certificate. It was June of 2003. So almost exactly 20 years ago, I got my first Reiki attunement. And at the time, almost nobody that I knew especially knew what Reiki was. I was in California at the time, which tends to be kind of sometimes on the cutting edge of these sort of what some people would call new age kind of things or healing things. And even there, it was something it was not a mainstream word. Most people did not know what Reiki was. That has really changed in the last 20 years, which is amazing because sometimes now I used to have to try to explain what Reiki was. We're going to do that tonight. But a lot of times when I mention the word Reiki now, someone says, oh yeah, my sister does that, my cousin does that, oh, I've had that before. And it's a jumping off point for some of the even more expansive things that I tend to do that Reiki can kind of help give you a general understanding. So let's talk a little bit about what Reiki is, because I'm going to talk about Reiki and how that works, my opinion about this, as somebody who's done it for 20 years, who's been a master for, 18, and who is now starting to teach Reiki to attune people. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about Reiki, and then I want to talk about dimensional frequency expansion, DFE, and kind of tell you what I think the difference is. Because over this last year that I've really been developing DFE, I can see how they're related and how they really fit together very well. So Reiki, translated, Rei is universal and Ki is life energy or life force energy. Sometimes people will call it. You hear me on the show say a lot of times I'll say Ki, Chi, and Prana. So Ki is the Japanese word for energy. Chi is the Chinese word for energy. You might have heard of practices like Tai Chi or Qi Gong. That's moving energy, practices to move energy. And then Prana is the yogic tradition word. I don't know if it's actually Hindu or Sanskrit. I don't remember the origin, but prana is the word for energy that you will hear used in that yogic tradition. And in the yogic tradition, a lot of times they talk about drawing in prana through breath work, moving energy through breath work, which we do every week in our meditation. So in the Western world, we've kind of just settled on the word energy, and it's a very broad term, but Reiki specifically is just that energy, universal life force energy. And what Reiki is a channeling of energy. And I've already taught you how to do Reiki. I haven't attuned you through the show because I don't feel that would be ethical. But essentially what Reiki is opening your crown chakra like we do every week on the show in our meditation, channeling in this universal life force energy, this Ki, this Chi, this Prana. What I a lot of times talk about is divine light. That is kind of how it comes to me. We channel that in through the top of our head. And in the meditation, we tend to just draw it down through the body. When you're doing Reiki, it channels in through the top of the head, kind of comes into your heart space, and then you channel it out through your hands. And it makes me laugh every time I do this into the camera when I'm working with Katie and we're doing tap and tone, which I talked about a few weeks ago. You can go back and listen to that show if you'd like. She kind of laughs because sometimes I'll be talking and I'll just kind of move my hand. I'll say, oh, I'm going to do some Reiki at this point in the tap and tone. And she says, every time you do that, I can feel it in my body. So one of the most amazing things about energy is that it transcends time and space. So there is an actual symbol that we learn in Reiki level 2, to send energy across a distance. So when I send energy, which I do often during our meditation, sometimes you might, if you're watching the video, you might see my hands move, or you might see me kind of moving in my own field, which I'm using as kind of a reflection of your field, or you might actually see me push toward the camera. You can see people do this on TikTok a lot too. I can send Reiki through time and space. So even if you watch this or you listen to this 2 years from now, that Reiki is still coming through. That is the nature of energy. It is not bound by time and space, which is sometimes a little hard to wrap your head around. We're not going to go too far down that road, but it is something that a lot of people can feel. Like Katie, when she's in the UK and I do that, and I'm in Arizona, she can feel it through our Zoom call. She can feel it through the camera, and you don't even need to be on camera to see it. It comes through the transmission. It's a vibration. Just like sound, we talk all the time about sound, and we're going to get into that a little bit when we talk about DFE. So why do you need to get attuned for Reiki? What is the point of that? So, and this is my opinion, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my opinion about what Reiki attunements do, and then how I compare that to dimensional frequency expansion. So a Reiki attunement essentially just opens your channel and kind of clears out some of the gunk in your channel, so that what you're channeling when you're giving Reiki, whether you're giving it to yourself, you can give it to your food, to a plant, to your animals, or as a practitioner, that's starting at level 2. That's the kind of practitioner level. Level 1 is sort of the self-healing level, and then level 3 is the master level. So when we receive an attunement, it's a sacred ceremony that is passed down from master to master. And in this ceremony, what we are doing is we are opening your channel so that you are a clearer channel of love and light, essentially. You're a clearer channel for that chi, that key to come through. And because Reiki comes through us, what tends to happen if our channel is kind of muddy, if I'm in a lot of pain and I give a Reiki session, the Reiki is going to come to me first. So the clearer my channel is, the more expanded my channel is, the more energy that I can kind of flow through and give to someone. You could think of it kind of as a straw. If I have a straw and and I have a thick milkshake and it's all full of gunk, I'm not going to get much through the straw, right? It's going to kind of get stuck in the straw. If my straw is big and wide and open, more of that liquid is going to flow through. So that is kind of what the purpose of a Reiki attunement is to open us up so that we can channel more energy. You receive these sacred symbols of Reiki at each level. You receive different symbols. At level 2, generally, you're taught to actually use the symbols, and then there's a master symbol as well. So that is kind of what an attunement is. There's a different attunement for each level of Reiki. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about this is my opinion about how this works as compared to DFE, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So what I feel Reiki is a general opening, and it is amazing. It is a wonderful place to start with energy work, because it is a general opening of this channel, and you receive symbols in different chakras, and it can kind of help sort of open things within your own body, again, so that you are a purer channel of that Reiki. So that I talk about clarity, expansion, and harmony on the show. We are clearing our channel, we're expanding our channel, we're bringing more harmony to our channel so that we have more to give, essentially. That's what an attunement is. And to me, a Reiki attunement is a very general opening of energy. We're just generally opening. We're clearing that whole straw, kind of, so that more energy flows through it, more liquid flows through it, in the straw analogy. So now we're going to talk about dimensional frequency expansion, and I'm going to tell you how I think that's a little bit different, and then we're going to talk about how well they work together. So what is dimensional frequency expansion, which I'm going to refer to as DFE from here on in, or maybe interspersed, but dimensional frequency expansion is a mouthful. So DFE is a vibrational healing method that I channeled. It's new. Nobody else is teaching it in the exact way that I'm teaching it. I mean, energy is energy, but this is energy that comes through in 7 layers in a specific format to assist you in clearing your own trauma, kind of opening your own channel. If you want to give to others, absolutely, always clearing your own stuff helps you give to others. And it's something that started coming through to me at the end of 2020. So it's been about 2.5 years that this has kind of been coming through now. And I was just listening to some of the shows from about a year ago when I started announcing that I was teaching DFE classes, and I can hear the uncertainty in my voice when I'm talking about it, because just like when Dr. Usui, who channeled Reiki, who brought this Reiki down from the mountaintop, that's kind of the lore of Reiki, you know, he brought this method back, and then he had to figure out, how am I going to teach this? How am I going to pass this along to people? It's a lot of responsibility, and I imagine he was a little bit overwhelmed trying to figure out, how do I keep the integrity of this amazing energy and pass it to people in a way that honors the energy, that honors the guides, the beings that are helping us channel this energy. So that's kind of where I was at with DFE for a while. I started channeling it, and I had to figure out what it was. At one point, I thought there were 4 layers. There are 7. I'm pretty sure that's where we're ending now, but I always leave the door open because I always get new information. And so we're going to talk about each layer of DFE, but let's talk a little bit about what it is and how it kind of is a little bit different from Reiki. So DFE is a vibrational method of healing, just like energy, just like Reiki, just like channeling. But for me specifically, especially, it comes through as sound, and it's meant to come through that way. Sound has a vibration that travels. The way it's come to me, the way it's been channeled to me, is that Reiki is light and DFE is this fluid energy that we've talked about a little bit in the last few months. This idea of energy is a fluid medium. What did I say in a few episodes ago when we talked about the fluid? What is it? I always forget, and then it comes flooding back to me. The fluid, oh my gosh, it's totally gone, and the light is love. Okay, it'll come back. Anyway, so the DFE comes through as this kind of fluid, this fluid movement of sound. And there's light in there too. I mean, I'm just making categories to kind of help differentiate. There's definitely a gray area of overlap here. And the Reiki is light. They also come from different directions. We're going to talk about that a little bit, just in terms of kind of dimensionality, which is going to be fun. And I know it's a little weird to talk about, but fun. And I have some good explanations now because I've been doing this for a while. So dimensional frequency expansion is the same kind of channeling of energy as Reiki, but it comes through as a vibration of sound and as a vibration of energy. And it comes through in 7 specific layers. So here's where we get a little bit different from Reiki. Reiki to me is this general opening. We're generally opening our channel. We're opening our straw. So more of this beautiful light flows through it. So more of this beautiful energy flows through it. Dimensional frequency expansion is a very specific opening in a sequence of 7 different layers. So Reiki, yes, it comes kind of through the whole channel. It opens your whole channel. What DFE does is it goes in and it finds some of those areas that tend to be stubborn and starts to open those even more. And it's interesting, it's no coincidence to me now that a lot of my DFE students have already been Reiki attuned, and we're going to talk more about that, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So with DFE, we are opening specific parts of our body and our energetic field in a specific order in order to expand our channel even more. So to me, Reiki is this general kind of opening. And then DFE is like, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to hit all these areas, and then we're going to really expand. We're going to draw this energy in from a whole different dimension. And when you use them together, it's amazing, and we'll get to that. So let's talk about the layers of dimensional frequency expansion. So the first layer is the emerald frequency. That is a heart opener. So these are done in order for a reason. These came to me in order. It was very specific. They said these need to be done in order. And what I see now is that we do these in order as we're ready, just like Reiki attunements. You have to do 1, then you do 2, and then you do 3. It takes some time to get through them. And that is purposeful because we're opening this channel. And every time we open more of our channel, we kind of stir up some gunk, and we got to release the gunk. We got to work through the gunk. So my OG group, I call them my original goddesses, have just now done Howlite, which is the 6th layer, and we've been doing this for about 1.5 years. But now I've got groups, everybody's moving at a little bit of a different pace. Part of that is because I am more effective in presenting it and activating it because I've had time to develop the system and I know how it works. So the first layer is the Emerald Frequency. That is a heart opener. It's a step into unconditional love. It's really profound, but it tends to be a little more gentle than some of the layers. It's the invitation. Come and join us. See if you like this. And along this path of DFE, there are natural places where you can choose to stop. And so Emerald is a place where you might do Emerald and you might decide to stop. Just like some people do Reiki I, they never move on, and that's completely fine. Emerald is the people who've done Emerald. The feedback I get, I feel more compassion. I'm more patient. I have more love in my life. It's just this really gentle, beautiful kind of opener of the heart space. The second layer of DFE is the Amethyst Frequency. That is the mind opener. And that one tends to be a little more intense for people. Although now that I've learned how to work with it, I can keep it a little bit lighter. But it's meant to be a little bit intense because the purpose of Amethyst is to vibrate. We talk all the time about how we're stuck in our mental field. So we're vibrating in the mental field. We're vibrating all these old beliefs and all these old kind of ideas that no longer serve us so that we can release them. That is what the Amethyst does. It's this big mind opener. It's this big invitation to see the things that are no longer serving you. I went through a huge release of this core belief about my worth being tied to my weight and how I looked. And it is almost not a thing for me anymore. It can still get triggered. It's a long-standing trauma, but I spend probably less than 5% of my time thinking about that stuff anymore, which gives me 95% of my time to focus on the things that really matter to me. And I would have told you that that was something I could not have done until I started this DFE journey for myself. And everybody that has gone through this with me has released some sort of a pattern about this, especially self-worth beliefs. So that's the Amethyst Frequency. So I mentioned natural places to stop. We don't want to stop at Amethyst. If you're going to stop, you stop after you do Onyx. That is because Onyx is the grounding frequency. That's the 3rd layer. And Onyx comes in and it grounds this energy. It kind of seals these first 3 frequencies into the body. It connects us to the earth. So when you're in Amethyst, you're kind of stuck in this sort of mental space. That's why you want to at least go through Onyx. That'll bring everything down. It'll seal Emerald, Amethyst, and Onyx into the body. It connects you to the body. It connects you to the earth. There's a lot of people in the healing space who are not very well grounded. I was one of them for a long time. It's something I'm still working on. When you have a strong connection to intuition, to this kind of spiritual realm, sometimes it's hard to be in a body. It's hard to be grounded. And so that is where Onyx really comes in and helps. It helps bring us back into the body. So that's a nice natural place to stop as well. And then the 4th layer of DFE is selenite. And selenite is the final integration layer. So there's 4 integration layers and 3 awakening layers. The integration layers are really the healing layers. This integration of this new energy, this letting go of what doesn't serve, this integration of this new, fresh, beautiful vibration. So selenite is where we start getting into what I mentioned before, this idea of multidimensionality. So the selenite frequency comes in from the side. It comes in from this parallel dimension. And I was thinking about this earlier. How do I explain this in a way that makes sense? And this is what came to me. So there's a concept in psychology, in developmental psychology, called object permanence. And what that means is there's a point in time for the first couple years of our life where we do not have what we call object permanence. What does that mean? That means if we're not looking at something, we no longer believe that it exists. So the kind of classic example of this is that, you know, mom or dad comes down, comes in the room, puts baby down in the crib, walks out of the room, baby thinks they disappeared. Baby doesn't know that mom and dad are just standing right outside the door because baby does not have object permanence yet. Baby does not understand this concept that something can exist even if you don't see it. And that at a certain point in development, we finally develop this object permanence somewhere in the toddler years where it's like, oh, yeah, mom left the room, but mom's in another part of the house. We start to understand that just because we can't see something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist somewhere else outside of our realm of what we can see. This is how I think about selenite. This is a good way to kind of explain this. So most of us do not have object permanence when it comes to the fact that there are other dimensions. We might kind of conceptually maybe get, have a feeling about that or an understanding or, understand this kind of vague idea of the multiverse and quantum physics and the fact that, there are realms that exist that we cannot see. But we don't actually have a direct experience of them because we don't have this object permanence. We don't understand that just because we can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. So as we start to pull this beautiful selenite frequency in, which is this really powerful integrator, it starts to open this intuitive connection to this other realm. We start to get this object permanence. We start to get this feeling that, oh yeah, these frequencies that Paula is calling in when she teaches these classes, here's where they come from. I can see them now. I can figure out where they're coming from. I can feel them. I can start pulling this in myself more. That selenite is kind of the bridge. That it's a little bit like the master level of Reiki. If I'm going to work with these, I need to get through this selenite integration, this opening of this multidimensional connection. So the last 3 layers are awakening layers. They're the frosting on the cake, I like to call them. Celestite, that's a high heart opener. Some people call this the God consciousness or the Christ consciousness. This is this idea that we are here to serve beyond what our ego wants. We are here to step. We can't destroy the ego. It's never going to happen. We have it for a reason. It's there to serve us. But a lot of us never realize that it's completely controlling our lives. So Celestite invites us to step beyond that, to start seeing the ways that we can serve outside of that ego space, beyond that ego space, the way we can kind of start to let go of some of that ego drive so that we can step into divine service, which is what we're really here for. The howlite, that's the 6th layer, that is a pineal and pituitary activator. It activates this chakra at the back of the base of the skull that some people call the mouth of God or the zeal chakra. This energetically literally blows the back of your head out. I just did the activation this weekend and it expands our field way back behind us, this whole area behind us that we tend to forget about. It activates our back body. It allows us to start releasing old traumas that we've pushed behind us that we didn't want to see. And it's a further step out of that ego space. It allows us to really start to recognize in ourselves and other people, is this coming from an intuitive space, a space of divine light and love, or is this coming from that fear-based space of the ego? Super useful, super powerful. And then the 7th layer, the final layer of dimensional frequency expansion, is the sodalite layer. And the sodalite layer is the sort of permanent opening and arriving at this idea of multidimensionality. This is this idea that there are other versions of myself. There are past versions and future versions, past lives, future lives, the me that made a different decision, the me that decided to go to psychology school instead of ending up in bodywork. That version of me exists somewhere in the multiverse. And what sodalite does is that it allows you to kind of start to take all of that energy and align it toward your purpose. We don't want to remove agency from any version of ourselves, but we can take all the energy of that and start to align it with that purpose, which is that we're here to serve in whatever way that shows up for us. So those are the 7 layers of DFE, of dimensional frequency expansion. And again, DFE is a little more of a specific opening than Reiki, which is a little more general. And when I first started doing this, I had a lot of Reiki attuned people, Reiki practitioners who were coming to these classes. And what came to me when I decided to refresh my own Reiki attunements this year, I got some information about how they were related. And what came through to me is that Reiki is kind of the trunk of the tree. And then as the tree trunk goes up, there's all these branches that come off of it. And there's a lot of different types of Reiki. There's Holy Fire Reiki and Karuna Reiki and Rainbow Reiki. And all of a sudden I saw that DFE was actually kind of like an offshoot of Reiki. It's the same energy, we're just kind of calling it in a different way. And then it's got this whole added kind of separate connection to this energy of multidimensionality. So for most people, we experience Reiki coming in through the head. DFE tends to come from the sides. So it's almost, they complement each other. It's like, you know, thinking about something in one dimension and then adding two more dimensions. And so as I got further into starting to teach DFE, I was like, oh yeah, Reiki and DFE, you know, if you get Reiki attuned and then you get DFE, like there is something about that amplifies, they each amplify each other. And then at a certain point, it started to become clear to me that they were actually meant to be combined. So here is my exciting announcement. In probably the next few months, I am going to start teaching and performing DFE Reiki attunements, Dimensional Frequency Expansion Reiki. And why do we need this? That's a good question, because I had that question for a while. Well, you can get Reiki attuned, you can get DFE activated, like why would you need to do them together? What's the difference? And the information that has come through to me at this point is that I just used this word in an episode I listened to from about a year ago, this word gestalt. So this is an idea that comes from psychology that basically means that the sum of everything together is greater than its individual parts. So we have Reiki, which is an amazing, powerful, transformative tool. And we have dimensional frequency expansion in its own right, an amazing, powerful, transformational tool. My original goddesses will all tell you that their lives have changed significantly since we started this journey, all of us, including me. Individually, amazing tools. When we combine them, and I have been shown how to do this, the sum of these things together is greater than the individual parts. And so I was actually given this information just earlier this week that the DFE Reiki attunement is a separate, powerful opening than just doing them each individually. And there's, just like there's a Reiki attunement ceremony, there's a DFE activation process, and I was shown a little while ago how to combine them. But again, I kind of just thought, oh, well, you know, if you weren't already Reiki attuned or you weren't already DFE activated, you know, you might want to do them together and kind of kill two birds with one stone is kind of the way I thought about it. The information that's coming through now is that a DFE Reiki attunement is greater than doing each one of them separately. So some people who have already done both on their own might decide they want to do this dimensional frequency expansion Reiki attunement. And I will be offering the 3 levels of Reiki, traditional Usui Reiki attunements, but they will be combined with this intuitive DFE flow of activation with certain layers going with certain attunements. There's going to be more information coming on that. I will be making a website page. There will be a page on my website about Reiki and then about the DFE Reiki. And I will start to offer these attunements as I perfect them, because I need to figure out exactly what my process is. And the last thing I want to say before we jump into tonight's meditation healing session is that all of this is really about intention and intuitive guidance. So we could make rules about things. There's lots of rules about Reiki. There's lots of people. You could get 10 Reiki masters in a room and they probably disagree about a lot of different things about how to do attunements or how many people you can attune at once or how long to wait between attunements. People are very passionate about this because energy, a lot of energy work is intuitive. So I just did a traditional Reiki attunement, a level 2 attunement last week with someone. I have 4 different versions of the attunement process that I kind of I took some from each of it and intuitively I tapped in and I decided what was going to work, what my lineage of Reiki that I'm creating is going to be, this offshoot of Usui, because that is it is a traditional Usui lineage that runs through me, but everybody who passes on a lineage kind of creates their own little lineage, because I don't have Usui standing in the room with me telling me exactly how to do it. It's a little bit like a game of telephone, right? Things kind of change as you pass them to each person. And I think they're meant to. I think that we're meant to be intuitive. So as I did this attunement this last week or so, I was called to do a few things that weren't in the attunement process that I had been taught. But it was very clear to me by the Reiki guides and the masters that were in the room spiritually with me that this is what I was meant to do. And that is how dimensional frequency expansion Reiki is evolving. It will be a traditional Reiki attunement, as much as anybody can do that without being usui, but it will be amplified by this DFE energy, by these DFE activations. So I'm very excited about that. I was very resistant for a long time about doing attunements, partly because of this idea that I really wanted to honor this energy. When I received my first 2 attunements, I mean all of my attunements, but especially the very first one, because you don't know what to expect. I mentioned last week, it felt like I had been drilled down into the floor, and if I wanted to move, I couldn't. The power of the energy was unlike anything I had ever felt. And it also felt like I was coming home. And my teacher said to me, "You've done this before." And I was like, it really feels like I have. So not everybody who's doing this is doing it in an ethical way, just like everything. There's unethical people in every field. But it was really important to me that I felt like when I was ready to step into that teacher role, that I understood the attunements, that I knew what I was doing, that I honored the ceremony of them, that I honored the sacredness of this, that I created a lineage of students who will do the same thing, who will honor the ethics and the integrity and the power of this amazing, beautiful gift that we've been given. So that is Reiki and dimensional frequency expansion. If you want to learn more, especially about DFE, you can go to my website, paulataylorenergy.com. There's a whole page there. There's lots of information about how to learn it. You can learn it in a group activation. You can receive, and that's one other thing that I will say. I always say I have one more thing to say, and then I say like 3 things. If you don't want to learn this stuff, you don't have to. There is a reason why we offer it professionally. There is a reason why I am a professional energy worker. So there is no shame in deciding that, like, I want to receive Reiki. You receive Reiki almost every week on this meditation. You receive DFE every time I open my mouth. All of the vocal toning that I do is DFE, is dimensional frequency expansion, energy healing. So book a session with a Reiki master, book a session with a Reiki practitioner, book a session with me for DFE, because there's only a few of us doing it right now, and I'm the original. But it's going to continue just like Reiki. It had to start somewhere, right? It had to start with Dr. Usui walking down the mountain and going, oh, how am I going to share this with people? DFE is meant to be given. It is meant to be given. So absolutely receive it. But if you're interested, try the intro class. Right now they're $88. That may change in the future. Last year they were $44, because as I learn what I'm doing and I realize the power of this, I've got to honor the integrity of this gift as I'm passing it along. But you don't have to be somebody who wants to be a professional energy worker to do any of these things. There's kind of a running joke in the Reiki world that everybody should receive a Reiki I attunement because it's such a beautiful gift for self-healing. That is how I feel about the emerald frequency of DFE. So the intro to DFE class includes an emerald activation. You can take it in person, you can take it online. We do it through Zoom. It's just as effective. And so if you're interested, maybe start there. You don't have to jump into something like a full Reiki attunement. You can start dipping your toe in. And I do encourage you, this is just about empowerment. And if you are comfortable and you want to receive from someone and you want to receive from a professional, I do that and I am a professional, so I highly recommend it. But also, the more you learn about energy, the more you learn how to work with energy, the happier you will be. I am a completely different person than I was 20 years ago when I started Reiki. I was a pessimistic person. I said this last week. I was a sad person. I struggled with depression. I still struggle with anxiety a little bit. I mean, no one's ever going to be perfect. But compared to where I was even like 5 years ago, even before DFE came through me, I am a much brighter light than I used to be, and I am so much less afraid to share that light with others. And that is the whole point of why we are here. That is why my motto is claim your light and let it shine. That is what you are here for. And that doesn't mean you have to become a professional energy worker, but because everything is energy, literally everything is energy, the more you understand how to work with it, the more effective you will be in any area of your life, whatever it is that you are called to do. You will be a better friend. You will be a more loving parent. You will be a more effective employee or employer or business owner. That is why I have been doing this work. That is why I am so passionate about sharing it. And that is why I am now trying to step into offering this on multiple levels. Again, you can watch the podcast and feel free to donate at paulataylorenergy.com on the podcast tab to help support me continuing to do this. But as of now, I give this away. There is a layer of this that I'm just giving away. If you want to go deeper than that, you can book a one-on-one session with me. You can read my book. It's like $12. That is a whole book about working with your own energy, spiritual integration. There is a book tab on paulataylorenergy.com. Or you can start to learn some of these things. And I'm not the only person teaching Reiki. There's people everywhere teaching Reiki. I will say, if you decide you want to get Reiki attuned, make sure you receive Reiki from that person first. Make sure you feel connected to them. Make sure you feel that they are sitting in a space of sacredness and honoring the ethics of this, and that you feel that kind of expansiveness. If you feel any contraction when you find an energy worker, then there's something probably where you're not connecting. Honor yourself when you're looking for somebody. There are lots of people out there, and just like any profession, there are terrible doctors and there are amazing doctors, and there's everything in between. And the same thing is true for energy workers. But again, now is the time. Now is the time. It will make your life better in so many ways, So what are we going to do in tonight's meditation? Tonight is going to be a really beautiful gift of receiving for you. I've done this, I think, one other time, but maybe not quite exactly the way I'm going to do tonight, because I never repeat anything exactly. I'm going to walk you through the 7 layers of dimensional frequency expansion. I'm not going to activate you, because that would not be ethical. There's an exchange that happens. You need to learn about that, and we activate each layer at a time. But if you come to any of my sound journeys, which unfortunately still are in person, but I have an idea about how to change that. If you listen to the show, you receive dimensional frequency expansion every time I tone. But what usually happens is that it's all kind of mingled in together. I'm not separating the layers out like I do in an activation. So for tonight, as a healing gift to you, I am going to go through each layer individually. I'm going to actually call them in individually like I would in an activation. And you'll get a chance to hear and experience the feeling of each of these 7 layers, and kind of how does it feel in your body? How does it feel in the space? And the beautiful thing about the fact that it comes through sound is that there's something tangible about sound. That's one of the reasons I love sound. Even Reiki, sometimes people don't feel the Reiki. Usually when you get attuned, you can hear me rubbing my hands together on the podcast. You start to feel something in your hands. You start to feel tingling. I had somebody yesterday who'd never had energy work before, and we were checking in a lot. And she said, oh, my head feels a little bit tingly, or this part of my body, my knee feels a little heavier, or my feet feel more relaxed. There's a lot of ways you can experience energy work. And when you first are starting, it can feel really subtle. Sound is sound. So that's one of the reasons I love sound. But notice through this healing meditation, how does the sound feel? When I call in the emerald frequency, does your heart feel like it's opening? Do you feel really loved and cozy and held? That is the feedback that I get from people about that one. When I call in the amethyst, do you feel a little bit buzzy in your head? Are things moving around up here? When I call in the onyx, do you start to feel kind of heavy and relaxed? When I call in selenite, do you feel that energy actually coming in from the sides of your body and opening this kind of channel? Do you feel the high heart of celestite kind of up in between the throat and the heart, kind of in that area? Do you feel this weird expansion out the back of your head when I do howlite? Like you're almost being pulled backwards. That's how it felt when I was activating this weekend. And sodalite, do you just feel big? Do you feel big and expanded and beautiful and light? Because that is sodalite. So just notice, how do each of these layers feel? Maybe you don't feel anything, and that's completely fine. But chances are we respond to sound. There is a reason we love music. And sometimes we get triggered by it. You might say, ooh, I don't really like that one. That one makes me uncomfortable. Then there's probably something to look at there. Sometimes when we feel a little bit triggered about something, it means that's an area that we need to focus on. So let's meditate together. So for this beautiful healing session, I invite you to be completely receptive. You might like to lie down. If you're in a space where you can do this before you go to sleep, that would be beautiful. But I will guide you out of it if you need to return to the rest of your day or evening. But you might want to just lie down and get really comfortable. If you're sitting up, make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you're supported. Maybe recline back on the sofa. Put your feet up on an ottoman. Or if you're sitting with your feet on the earth, maybe make sure you've got a little lumbar cushion and you've got something to lean up against. If you're sitting on the floor, just make sure you're propped up and comfortable. It is much easier to receive when we are in a state of ease. So to that end, let's take 3 big, beautiful oxytocin breaths. We're going to let the belly float out as we breathe in through the nose. We're going to sigh that breath out with an audible ha sound from high to low, telling the body that it's safe to come into this ease response after what might have been a really stressful morning, day, and or evening. Just that beautiful breath moves energy through the body, allows you to release some tension, some things that aren't serving. So take 2 or 3 more of those. And feel free to use that breath anytime throughout this session. If you feel like there's something that you'd like to release, breathing out through the mouth, even without that audible ha, helps release more energy. But as you're ready, you can just let your breathing relax. Just come into a completely receptive state here. Maybe move your body a little bit, get comfortable. Notice any areas of tension and maybe just do a really gentle movement into that tension. Calming, settled, calming, heavy. If you'd like, you can allow that crown chakra to open at the top of the head. Just invite that beautiful, unconditional love and light, that ki, chi, prana, divine energy to flow in through your head. Let it come through the neck and the shoulders and the wrists and the hands, down into the chest and the belly and the hips. Let that beautiful energy flow down the legs, through the thighs, into the knees, down through the lower legs, all the way into the ankles and the feet. Let your body feel heavy and relaxed. And just allow yourself to receive here. I call in the dimensional frequencies to this space, to this virtual space, and to all future spaces connected to this recording. Let the sound of light surround me. Let the light of sound guide me. Let sacred sound move through me for the harmony of all. I call in the emerald frequency to this space. Hey how, hey hi, oh. Hey how, hey hi, oh. Hey how, hey oh. Hey how, hey oh. Say how, hey how. Say how, hey how. Say how, hey how. Say how, hey how, hey how. Say how, hey how, hey how. I call in the amethyst frequency to this space. I call in the onyx frequency to this space. I call in the selenite frequency to this space. Ho shit ke aye o te kai. Ho te I call in the celestite frequency to this space. I call in the howlite frequency to this space. Hey, yeah, 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 I call in the soda-like frequency to this space. I call in the dimensional frequencies to this space. Oh yeah 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 yeah. Say ya ya ya. Sa chikata ya yo ya yo. Te katakie ya ye katakie ya ye katakie ya ye katakie ya ye Allow yourself to receive this energy, this vibration with love. Sit in this shift for a few more moments. You deserve a beautiful, free-flowing, clear vessel of love and light, of ki, of chi, of prana. And you can find that space. You can receive it. You can learn to give it to yourself as well. That is your birthright. To be free-flowing, to be expanded and clear, to exist in a state of love way more often than a state of fear. Let yourself feel that now in the center of your being, that you deserve this beautiful love and light, this beautiful free flow of life force energy in all parts of your body, in all parts of your being, in your emotional field, in your mental field, in the past, in the future, in all versions of yourself, within your family, within your community, within this world. What a beautiful world we could make if we all allowed ourselves to receive this flow, this beautiful flow of love and light, this beautiful flow of the energy we are made of, this beautiful flow of the energy that made us, this beautiful flow of the energy we can use to make beauty, to make light, to make love in a real tangible way. If you're in a safe space and you like to drift off to sleep, gently allow yourself to do that, knowing that you are held and supported by this beautiful energy. Let it carry you off to be held in that spiritual realm of sleep. If you're coming back to the rest of your day or evening, be very slow about it. Don't rush yourself. Maybe you very slowly begin to deepen your breath. Maybe you very slowly begin to move your body very gently and with reverence, with respect, maybe rotating your wrists or your hands, maybe moving your neck, shrugging your shoulders. Let this shift reverberate and don't rush back to the rest of this day, this evening, this night. Be slow, be gentle, and know that you can come back anytime to experience these beautiful frequencies again, these life-changing, powerful, shifting frequencies are here for you when you're ready. Take one nice big deep breath in through your nose, sigh it out, let a little bit of sound out. Sat Nam. The truth of your identity is that you are the vibration of energy, and you can learn to expand that vibration with love and light for the highest good. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I will be taking next week off, but have a luminous rest of your week and your next week. I will see you in 2 weeks for Wind Down Wednesdays.